Okay, everybody, don't have too many people on right now. I guess more people will join us as time goes on. So this is supposed to be our Sunday feast program in Nugalaka. Of course, on Sunday we're actually doing it an hour earlier than normal, as most of you know. And of course, it's Monday for those of you in Fiji or Australia and New Zealand. It's actually Monday morning right now. So I guess we'll start chanting Jai Radha Madhava. I don't know if we'll get too many people from our local area joining, because there's also in about an hour, I think an hour or two, the Samadhi ceremony for Bhakti Maharaj is going to take place in Mayapur, and people are going to be watching that. So let's start chanting Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Malabha Giri Baradhati Gopi Jana Malabha Giri Baradhati Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Ran Umadhuva Kunya Bihari Jaya Ran Umadhuva Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Malabha Giri Baradhauti Gopi Jana Malabha Giri Baradhauti Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya, also Teta Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Chananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Hoidas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Shaimakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuram Ki Jai, Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premalanda Hari Hari Bom. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, Agana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So we'll go on to the Bhagavad Gita. It's good to see everybody. As I said, I don't expect too many people from our local area to be signed in, because today is the day that they're doing the samadhi. I think it's in about an hour or two. The samadhi of Srila Bhakti Churu Maharaj in Mayapur, and that's going to be live. So I'm going to watch that also later. So let's continue with the Bhagavad Gita discussion. And we are on the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and we're going to start with text 21 in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, as I've mentioned many times before, we're going through the Bhagavad Gita rather slowly to try to understand the context of each and every verse and actually explain in ordinary language what each and every verse means, how can it be applied to ourselves, and how can we advance in Krishna consciousness utilizing this particular knowledge. So, 7th chapter is a very important chapter. Of course, all the chapters are important. It was interesting. But Prabhupada indicated, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur indicated, that the middle 6 chapters of the Gita are the very nectar essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, every chapter is important, beginning from the first chapter, of course, where you get the setting of the scene in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The 2nd chapter, where you get the basic, some Sankhya Yoga. In other words, we're not the body, we're spirit souls, we're changing bodies, just basic stuff. 3rd chapter of Karma Yoga, like that. 4th chapter of Transcendental Knowledge. 5th chapter of Karma Yoga, Action and Krishna Consciousness, some more Karma Yoga there. 6th chapter of the Sankhya Yoga, or sometimes called the Ashtanga Yoga chapter. And this 7th chapter. So, the first 6 I was talking about first. They're like the introduction. And the middle section, of the nectar in the middle, begin with the 7th chapter, is actually direct knowledge about Krishna, and the Acharyas consider these to be more nectar, the middle 6 chapters. So we're on the first of the middle 6 chapters, which is chapter 7, and we've heard so much nectar the last few days. That is, who surrenders to Krishna, who doesn't surrender to Krishna. We went over that already. The 4 types of people who don't surrender, 4 types of people who do surrender. Worship of the demigods is not recommended. People whose intelligence is stolen by lust, they worship the demigods, and they do it with their own system. So let's continue. So text 21. Yo yo mam yam yam dhanum bhakta shadayar chitumai ichati tashachalam shadam tameva viddadam yaham yaya, whoever, yam yam, whichever, tanam, form of demigod, bhakta, devotee, shradaya, with faith, architam, to worship, ichati, desires, tasha, to him, achalam, steady, shadam, faith, tam, that, eva, surely, vidadami, give, aham, I. Very important verse to understand the interaction that we have with the super soul. I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. So let's connect this to several of the verses in the Gita. One verse that comes to mind is that Krishna says, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Yayatamam prapajante tam stataiva bhajamiham. What that basically means is when you desire something, then Krishna rewards the fruits of that desire. Let's say if you want to surrender to Krishna by surrendering to Krishna's material energy, which most of us have done, then Krishna makes your faith very strong in the material energy. Like you see someone like Charles Darwin, who is not Srila Prabhupada's favorite person, I have to say. Prabhupada has a lot of uncomplimentary things to say about Charles Darwin. So, but he had so much faith in the material energy and its ability to do things, in spite of all evidence to the contrary. Even in his time, before microbiology was known, and I've mentioned microbiology in many different classes, he understood that the living entity is extremely complex, even on the macrocosmic level. Because microcosmic level means, maybe the nano level or cellular level. But even on a larger level, there's all these interacting different organs in the body and red corpuscles, white corpuscles. I mean, he understood that at least, because they did have microscopes at that time. Of course, not very sophisticated microscopes like the scanning electron microscope that we have nowadays. So, but even by the evidence that he was presented, it was obvious there was a designer and someone who made our bodies, or at least designed the bodies, put them together, or had someone else put them together. There was intelligence behind it. It didn't happen by chance. I mean, that's such a foolish idea to think that something complex can be assembled by chance. And the example I use in one of my seminars is it's like setting off a bomb in a junkyard and expecting a 747 to come out of it if you set off a bomb enough times. That is stupid. So, but he had so much faith. Oh my God. So much faith in, Richard Dawkins, so much faith in atheism. And sometimes politicians, we have faith in them. And you see, let's look even, in World War II, people were just like believing in Hitler. It's amazing how much faith they had, trust or whatever. Not everybody, of course. I mean, it's just amazing. So all that faith that one may have in a demigod, one may have in a demon, one may have in a politician, one may have in himself, material energy. All these things are that faith comes from Krishna. Because Krishna is in the heart. And Krishna makes the faith steady so that people can fulfill their particular desires and ultimately get kicked and understand it was stupid unless they had faith in Krishna. So if one wants to have faith in Krishna, then Krishna will give that faith. Faith means trust. You cannot separate faith from trust, because faith does not mean belief in the existence of something. As we mentioned many times before, that you can believe in the existence of the police and still be a criminal. I mean, for example, in America, we all believe in the existence of what's called the Highway Patrol. The Highway Patrol has cars, obviously, they patrol the highway. And what they do is they try to catch speeders. So I have full faith that the Highway Patrol is there. Yet, what do? Well, I have two things to try to avoid them. One is called a radar detector, or a LIDAR detector that detects laser beams. And the other one is an app on the phone called Waze. So this app and that device detects where the police are with their radar guns. And what do? I slow down when I'm going near them. And I don't get a ticket. I haven't gotten a ticket in so long, but I have faith that the Highway Patrol exists. But at least they believe that they exist. I don't have faith in them. Because if I had faith in the same sense that we should have faith in Krishna, I'd be following the speed limit. That's just one example. Okay, so many times people, the reason I'm saying that is because the people in certain religious persuasions say that you just have to believe in the Lord and you'll be saved. Ain't true, buddy. You have to believe that following what the Lord says and do it, then you'll be saved. Otherwise, it's just lip service. Because what is the belief anyway? So if one, let's say, really believes in something, and you see that people believe in these crazy politicians. I mean, they're just like, somehow or other, they're so stupid. I mean, I get amazed with the stupidity of people. I mean, it shocks me sometimes. But now I understand, because they desire to have some idol or person they worship. Idol means like a movie star or something like that. And so Krishna makes that faith steady. So Krishna is making them act like idiots. In other words, I don't know if any of you ever played that game, Pin the Tail on the Donkey, when you were young. We did. I did. And so Krishna is making us the donkey if you actually are just not Krishna conscious, and Krishna is pinning the tail on you, or the material energy is pinning the tail on you. So now we understand why people have beliefs in things that are completely illogical, because Krishna gives them that blind faith. And faith in Krishna consciousness should never be blind. It has to be based upon logic and reasoning, not simply blind. That's really important. So one has the ability to ascertain or understand Shastra, in the guidance or given the guidance of the spiritual master, but understand Shastra themselves. God has given independence to everyone. This is what I was saying. Therefore, if a person desires to have material enjoyment and wants very sincerely, he's sincere, to be a doll. Anyway, sorry if I've offended anyone. To have such facilities from the material demigods, the Supreme Lord is super soul in everyone's heart, understands and gives facilities to such persons. Okay. You can bribe them. As the Supreme Father of all living entities, he does not interfere with their independence, but gives all facilities so that they can fulfill their material desires. Okay, try it out. I told you it's not a good idea. Someone, or some may ask why the all-powerful God gives facilities to living entities for enjoying this material world, and so lets them fall into the trap of the illusory energy. The answer is that if the Supreme Lord as Super Soul does not give such facilities, then there is no meaning to independence. Our nature is to be independent. Therefore, he gives everyone full independence, whatever one likes. But his ultimate instruction we find in Bhagavad Gita that one should give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto him. That will make man and women happy. So one may ask the question, many people have asked these questions of me, why doesn't Krishna just take away our independence? Because it's for our own good, isn't it? In fact, I even know one devotee who prayed, Krishna, take away my independence. No, because that would mean we would not be we. We would be machines if Krishna took away our independence. And Krishna does not want to interact with a machine. Just like nowadays, especially in Japan, they have these robots and really, really accurate, human depictions in these robots. So someone who's really lonely, actually they have robot dogs. I don't know if they have robot cats, but I know they have dogs. Robodog. And for a man, they have a robot lady, and for a woman, they have a robot man. Just keep you happy so you're not lonely. What's the use of relating to a robot? Just like, huh? What's the use? Yeah, it may be a placebo for some time. that you just like think you're relating to someone. I mean, you're in so much illusion. But Krishna doesn't like placebos. Krishna wants to relate to people who have a choice, who love him voluntarily, not who he twists their arm behind the back and says, love me. So therefore, Krishna doesn't take away our independence. Of course, he's capable of doing anything. But if Krishna took away our independence, we wouldn't be us. He would be depersonifying us, depersonating us, whatever, if I can coin a word. He'd be taking away our personhood. So he gives us facility. And if he didn't give us facility for using our independence, it's the same exact thing. What's the use of having independence if you don't have facility? So that's why Krishna gives good instructions. He lets us try to experience things in this world. And then after many, many births, as we read the other day, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavamam Prapachate. After many, many births, we realize, hey, it wasn't a good idea to come here. And then, once we realize that, we say, God, Krishna, help me, Krishna sends Guru. Krishna sends Guru when you're ready, and not before then. That's why you're wandering, Brahmanda Brahmate, Konna Bhagavan, Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Bhakti Latabish. You're wandering everywhere. And when you are ready, so nothing happens by accident. So people ask, what about people in Timbuktu, if there is such a place? And then no devotee went there to preach. It's fortunate. Well, somehow or other, they were born in Timbuktu. And somehow or other, if they didn't get the opportunity to go on the internet and hear about Krishna or see a devotee, that was their desire. They're not ready. They have to go through some Timbuktu-ness. Anyway, that's another word. So therefore, things happen by the plan of the Lord. If you need a guru, all of a sudden, knock, knock, knock. Krishna knocks at your door. The guru knocks at your door and says, hi, I'm Guru Maharaj. Ready? You call for me? So how does the person call for Guru Maharaj? The person is ready. Then Krishna in the heart understands that. And it's the same Krishna in everyone's heart. So it's not that he has to call the other super soul on the phone. Can you imagine? This is super soul number 32. I would like to speak to super soul number 200 billion, 300 million, 475,112, please. Okay, I will connect you to him. So, super soul, so I got this guy who's ready. He's ready for Guru Maharaj. Can you direct Guru Maharaj? Just talk to him? Okay. No, it's not like that. Because there's only one super soul. And divided and the undivided, undivided and the divided, as the Bhagavad Gita tells us. And he knows. Then he guides the guru, he guides the prospective disciple, and bingo, they meet. So nothing happens by accident. So we'll continue. Both the living entity and the demigods are subordinate to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the living entity cannot worship the demigod by his own desire, nor can the demigod bestow any benediction without the supreme will. As it is said, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, persons who are distressed in the material world go to the demigods, as they are advised in the Vedic literature. A person wanting some particular thing may worship such and such a demigod. For example, a diseased person is recommended to worship the sun god. Wow. Okay, here we go. A person wanting education may worship the goddess of learning, Saraswati. And a person wanting a beautiful wife may worship the goddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. No thanks. In this way, there are recommendations. I am, of course, being a little humorous about this whole thing. In this way, there are recommendations in the Shastras, Vedic literatures, for different modes of worship of different demigods. And because a particular living entity wants to enjoy a particular material facility, the Lord inspires him with a strong desire to achieve that benediction from that particular demigod. And so he successfully receives the benediction. And remember yesterday I talked about Katyayani Vrat, how these pure devotees, of course the gopis, pure devotees, nityas are devotees, and also Shaktis of the Lord, they wanted to achieve Krishna as their husband, so they worshipped the demigod Katyayani, who was Durga. And guess what? They got Krishna. So, I guess that's all right then. Or if you worship a pure devotee demigod, there are pure devotee demigods like Lord Shiva. You can worship him as a devotee of Krishna. And the way you worship Lord Shiva properly as a Vaishnava is that you give him the remnants of Krishna. And so that's what that happens in Bhubaneswara. Bhubaneswara, for those of you who are Indian, will know that that's a place in India, near Jagannath Puri. And it's sometimes called Gupta Kashi. Kashi is a place of Lord Shiva. So what they do is they take Lord Jagannath's remnants after he eats them, and they bring them by taxi to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva relishes that. And there's a story in the Chaitanya Mangal about this. What is the story in the Chaitanya Mangal? The story is that once upon a time, and I'm not going to tell the whole story, but Narada Muni got some Mahaprasadam, and he ate the whole thing. And Lord Shiva, who happens to be his brother, asked him, did you save any for me? Because he saw that Narada Muni was completely ecstatic. And Narada Muni said no, and Narada Muni discovered a little bit under his fingernail, gave it to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva started dancing in so much ecstasy that the whole universe was threatened with devastation, and Durga finally had to stop him. Durga wanted prasadam, but it wasn't any for her, and Lord Shiva said, you're not really qualified, and as a result, she worshipped Vishnu, and Vishnu agreed not only to give her prasadam, but prasadam for all of us. Thank God for Durga. So, there's the example of Lord Shiva is a devotee, and what does Lord Shiva like most? Krishna prasadam. He likes serving Krishna most. And Lord Shiva even says, of all types of worship, Radhanam Sarvesham Vishnu Radhanam Param, Tasmat Parataram Devi Tvadiyanam Samarchanam. Of all types of worship, worship of Vishnu is best. And even better than that is worship of Vishnu's devotee. Respect, worship, and following Krishna's devotee. And Krishna even says, one who says he is my devotee is not my devotee. One who says he is a devotee of my devotee is my devotee. He says that in the Adi Purana. So, anyway, let's continue. The particular mode of devotional attitude of the living entity towards a particular type of demigod is also arranged by the Supreme Lord. The demigods cannot infuse the living entities with such an affinity because he is the Supreme Lord. A super soul is present in the hearts of all living entities, which is what I just said. Krishna gives impetus to man to worship certain demigods. The demigods are actually different parts of the universal body, the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they have no independence. They're part of his corporation. In the Vedic literature, it is stated the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Supersoul, is also present within the heart of the demigod. Therefore, he arranges through the demigod to fulfill the desire of the living entity. But both the demigod and the living entity are dependent on the supreme will. They are not independent. There's an interesting story in the Mahabharata, how one person, he wanted to find a demigod that no one else worshipped. If you are the only worshiper of a particular demigod, that demigod will do everything for you. So he went around. Finally, he found a demigod up in the clouds or something like that. And that demigod became very pleased with him. So, I don't think that's a practical proposal for any of us. It's been hard to find a demigod that nobody knows about. So, next verse. Sataya Shadaya Yuktas Tasya Radhana Vihate Abate Chatata Kaman Mayaiva Hitan Sahi Taya. With that, Shradaya, inspiration, yukta, endowed, Tasha, that demigod Aradanam, for the worship, ihate, he aspires, labate obtains, cha and tata, from that come on his desires, maya, by me, eva, alone, vihitan, arranged, he certainly ton those. Endowed with such a faith, which has been given by Krishna, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. So Krishna here is indicating it's better to go to him, because you don't have to just figure out which demigod is good for what. Hey, it gets a little confusing. Which demigod would be good for a computer? I need a new computer, so let me just think of which demigod. And then I have to do some research. Google it. And then you'll find out which demigod is the proper demigod. So instead, just go to Krishna. My dear Krishna, please, I need a new car. I'm not saying you should do that. But previously we heard this verse, akama, sarvakama, mokshakama, dharadit, etc., that whatever one desires, one should go to Krishna. It was better not to have these desires, or better just to depend on Krishna. Krishna knows me. That's really the point. Krishna knows what I need. He'll give it to me. You don't have to go. Like, Prabhupada would give the example of a child sitting at the dinner table with his father, and he would say, dear God, dear Father, son, dear Father who art in the table, are you going to feed me? I want food. And the Father, of course, is going to feed you. So, anyway, so the best thing is, of course, we just go to Krishna and say, Krishna, you know what's best for me. But for most of us, we're not on that platform. Say, Krishna, I'm surrendered. You may crush me by your embrace, may leave me brokenhearted by not being present before me. We're not on that platform. Just be honest and say, Krishna, okay, can you please help with this? Anyway, try to dovetail in Krishna's service, but at least be enthusiastic. You have to understand your sankalpa. That means intention when you engage in devotional service. Why are you chanting? If you understand your sankalpa, why you're chanting, then it becomes pleasant. If you're doing something just because you're doing it, it's not pleasant. So that's really important. The why is W-H-Y, not W-I-S-E. But you should be wise, but you should understand the whys. Sounds the same. So, purport. The demigods cannot award benedictions to their devotees without the permission of the Supreme Lord. The living entity may forget that everything is the property of the Supreme Lord, but the demigods do not forget. So the worship of demigods and achievement of desired results are due to the demigod, not to the demigods, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by arrangement. The less intelligent living entity does not know this, and therefore he foolishly goes to the demigods for some benefit. But the pure devotee, when in need of something, prays only to the Supreme Lord. And we do pray to Krishna for things, like we pray for the health of a particular devotee. We pray for the empowerment to preach Krishna consciousness. We pray that someone can come to Krishna consciousness. Whenever I'm interacting with someone and trying to encourage them, I'm just praying for their benefit. Please let them come to Krishna consciousness. Asking for material benefit, however, is not a sign of a pure devotee. But just admit if you're not a pure devotee. But, one day, you just pray. I know I have so many desires. I prayed someday to give up these desires, but right now, what can I do? Be honest. We've spoken about this many times before. Be honest as to your situation. Don't try to act in a way that's not honest. For example, there have been many instances of people who have taken the position of a doctor and didn't have a medical degree, and they just printed it out on their printer, the medical degree, and they caused havoc. So just be honest as far as who you are, how many desires you have, whatever. Nobody's gonna condemn you for honesty. They'll condemn you for dishonesty, and that's really what's happening in the political sphere right now. If someone would just admit, oh, I didn't know this. Okay, that's honest, and they can endeavor to know it. A living entity goes to the demigods because He is mad to fulfill his lust. I want this. I must have it. This happens when something undue is desired by the living entity. The Lord himself does not fulfill the desire. Krishna didn't give it to me. Okay, let me try something else. There's many stories. There was a king one time. His name was Trishanku. This is not exactly about Krishna, but it's a story in the Vedic literatures. And Trishanku had this desire to go to the heavenly planets. And so he approached the guru. His guru was Vashishta Muni, because Trishanku was a member of the dynasty, Ikshvaku dynasty, the sun god dynasty from Vivaswan. And so he went to his guru, and he said, Guru Dev, I want to go to heaven, but I want to take this body to heaven with me. And Guru Maharaj said, no, it's not possible. Just calm down, There's a proper way to go to heaven. You get pious, but you can't take that gross body to heaven. In heaven, they don't walk around with bodies made of the Pancha Mahabhuta, or biomucus, or however you may say it. In heaven, they walk around with subtle bodies, with bodies that don't smell, don't get sick, don't get old, don't pass stool. That's heaven. They walk around like that. So then he thought, Guru Maharaj is not fulfilling that. Let me go to someone else. So he went basically to the sons of his guru. He thought, Dad wouldn't do it for me. And these were loyal sons, but you should do it for me. And the sons get really angry because he had offended their father. And they cursed him to just become, his body to become more decrepit than it already was. Yuck. And all of his ornaments, they just became tarnished and turned to regular metal instead of gold and diamonds. He said, stones, regular stones and iron, bracelets, and it previously had gold bracelets. So they all just transformed into something else. And he was ugly as sin, as they say. So what happened is then he went to another sage. He said, well, let me try to rectify this one. Vishwamitra Muni. And Vishwamitra Muni did some sacrifices, and he wasn't able to go to heaven. Then Vishwamitra Muni sent up to heaven on his own power. And guess what? The demigods didn't want him there. They just said, go back. And he started to go back. And then Vishwamitra Muni said, no, go to heaven. And they said, go to earth, not hell. And so he was bouncing back and forth between the two places. Finally, Vishwamitra Muni had to create an artificial heaven, just because he was such a powerful yogi. And this poor guy is hanging there upside down. Anyway, it's a whole story there. In the Mahabharata, Ramayana, the story is there. And also in the Gita. And anyway, it's a famous story. So the point is, when the Lord when you want something and the person you're going to doesn't fulfill that desire, you just go to other people. Just let's say if I go to Amazon and they don't have a particular thing, then I'll go to Walmart, then I'll go to here, go there. So people do that with God. But the problem with God is not just going between Amazon and Walmart. It's going between the Supreme Lord and someone who is definitely not the Supreme Lord. You're not going to get happiness from worshiping him. Whereas if you go to Krishna, you'll get what you need and you'll be happy. Go to the demigods, you'll get what you need, and you will be miserable with it. That's all. You can be miserable. I'll give an example. Here's the story of Chitraketu. Well, he didn't exactly go to demigods. He went to some sages, and he asked he wasn't supposed to have a child. Okay, let's get to this. Chitraketu. And he had a whole bunch of wives in an attempt to have a child. And then so went to Parvata Muni, and Parvata Muni, he said, Chitraketu said, I really want to have children. And Parvata Muni said, all right. I bless you, even though you're not supposed to have one. Your child is going to be harsha shoka. That means give you some happiness, some distress. And Chitraketu got really happy. His wife had the child. One of his wives had the child. And a beautiful child. And the other wives became so envious that they poisoned and killed the poor little boy. And so he wasn't supposed to have the child, and he went to the sages. And then eventually he got blessed by Narada Muni, because this was a whole arrangement to help him understand that you'll get what you need from the Lord, but not always what you ask for. There's a difference. And even if you get something that you ask for, it may be the cause of your ultimate renunciation. So here, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one who worships the Supreme Lord and at the same time desires material enjoyment is contradictory in his desires. Devotional service to the Supreme Lord and the worship of the demigod are not on the same platform, because worship of a demigod is material and devotional service to the Supreme Lord is completely spiritual. So whatever you want, go to Krishna. At least you'll advance in devotional service and you'll be happy. And if you need the thing, Krishna will give it to you. And if it's not good for you, he won't give it to you. Just like Krishna's a good parent. Let's say you have some desire to take some illicit drug, and you go to your father. You say, Dad, can you give me this drug? And the father says, no, it's not good for you, but I'll give you prasadam. I'll give you something nice instead of that. And you think, ooh, better I go to my friends. I'm making an analogy here. So he goes to his friends, gets the drug, suffers, finally goes back to his father, says to his father, you were right, Dad. And Dad says, I told you so, son. So in this way, it's better to learn by hearing. And the Supreme Lord. Anyway, so you get the idea. So just go to Krishna. And if it's good for you, you will get it from Krishna. And if it's not good for you, Krishna won't give it to you, because he's not going to give you something that's going to make you become separate from him. He'll give you something that'll help you come closer to him. So ask, and you shall receive. For the living entity who desires to return to Godhead, material desires are impediments. A pure devotee, but if we pray to Krishna, that can be an impetus, like the story of Dhruva Maharaj we told last night, who had a material desire, a big material desire, wanted the greatest kingdom imaginable, and Krishna was ready to give it to him, but by the time he saw Krishna, he wasn't interested in it anymore. A pure devotee of the Lord is therefore not awarded the material benefits desired by the less intelligent living entities, who therefore prefer to worship demigods of the material world rather than engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. But the pure devotee is awarded things in this material world that he can use in Krishna's service. Just look at Prabhupada. Or let's say Prabhupada's pastimes, for example. Prabhupada was trying his best to make a lot of money in his business. And Prabhupada actually, I was listening to a story where Prabhupada said the other day that he was offered a position with some big chemical company that would have led to his becoming extremely wealthy and well-known. And then Prabhupada, in his humility, says he was too puffed up, and he actually asked for more in the contract than they would be willing to give. And therefore, he didn't get the position. And therefore, things sort of like snowballed and got worse for Prabhupada in business and people turned against him in business, even though Prabhupada wanted to be successful in business. The reason he wanted to, not because Prabhupada wanted money per se, but Prabhupada wanted to utilize the money to fulfill his spiritual master's order to preach in the Western world and print books in English. There's need money to print books and to travel. So Prabhupada thought, once I get money, then I'll be able to do all these things. But Krishna never gave him that success. In fact, Krishna put so many roadblocks in front of Prabhupada, apparent roadblocks in front of Prabhupada. But And he didn't have any material desires, but he desired things to be used in Krishna's service that were not going to be helpful for his ultimate mission. Prabhupada started a program in Jhansi, a place in India. And then eventually that place was just like ripped away from him. And so Krishna didn't give him that. He took it away from him. And Krishna, anyway, it's a story of Prabhupada. And eventually Prabhupada ended up here with no money. And basically that's the start of the Hare Krishna movement. Just the holy name and the holy name. Prabhupada showed us that the holy name is the greatest wealth. Krishna's name is the greatest wealth. If you can be absorbed in Krishna's name, then you're connected to Krishna, and you're the wealthiest person. Person with love of God is the wealthiest person. Actually, that was brought out in the conversation between Ramananda Roy and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Roy, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was taking the position of student in this particular case, and he said, who is the wealthiest person? He who has, and Ramananda Roy's reply was, he who has love for Krishna. That's wealth. That means love for Krishna, for Krishna's devotees, love and desire to please Krishna. Okay, we'll do one more verse. This verse is also an important verse. Text 23. Antabatu palam tesham tadbhavatyalpadmedasam devan deva yago yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. Antabat, perishable, tu bat, palam, fruit, tesham, there, tat, that, bhavati, becomes, alpa, medasam, of those of small intelligence, devan, to the demigods, deva, yaha, worshippers of the demigods, yanti, go, mat, my, bhaktaha, devotees, yanti, go, mam, to me, api, also. Men of small intelligence, alpa, medasa, worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. What's the use of going to the planets of the demigods? There's a lot of enjoyment there. It's temporary. And there's no real enjoyment, because real enjoyment is in the heart, loving relationships. That's the real enjoyment. Everything else is just like really will-o'-the-wisp, soap bubble. But loving relationships is the real happiness that one can experience. And that loving relationship is with Krishna, the spiritual world. You're playing with God, as we were hearing this morning in the Bhagavatam. That the coward boys, they're playing, they're wrestling, they're chastising God. I mean, it's real, and this is God's enjoyment. This Yogamaya, even Krishna has the Yogamaya Purnamasi, Vrindadevi, that arranges for Krishna to forget that he's God so he can enjoy, because that's the real enjoyment, to forget your position. And you're always thinking you're God. I mean, it's pretty tough. So some commentators in the Bhagavad Gita say that one who worships a demigod can reach the Supreme Lord, but here it is clearly stated the worshippers of demigods go to different planetary systems where various demigods are worshipped. Such as worshipper of the sun achieves the sun, or worshipper of the demigod of the moon achieves the moon. Similarly, if anyone wants to worship a demigod like Indra, he can attain that particular god's planet. It is not that everyone, regardless of whatever demigod is worshipped, will reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is denied here. Because you choose your ticket. You go to the airport, if you go, nowadays, you buy a ticket for a particular place. It's not whatever ticket you purchase, you get to the same place. That's insane. For it is clearly stated the worshippers of the demigods go to different planets in the material world, but the devotee of the Supreme Lord goes directly to the supreme planet of the personality of Godhead. Here the point may be raised that if the demigods are different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, then the same end should be achieved by worshiping them. However, worshippers of the demigods are less intelligent because they don't know what part of the body food must be supplied. It's a typical example, probably, yes. Some of them are so foolish they claim there are many parts and many ways to supply food. Ridiculous. This isn't very sanguine. Can anyone supply food to the body through the ears or eyes? They do not know that these demigods are different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord, and in their ignorance they believe that each and every demigod is a separate god and a competitor of the Supreme Lord. Not only are demigods parts of the Supreme Lord, but ordinary living entities are also. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that the Brahmins are the head of the Supreme Lord, the Kshatriyas are his arms. We described this before. The Vaishyas are his waist, and the Shudras are his legs. Brahmanas are the intelligent class, the Kshatriyas are the administrators, martial people. Vaishyas are the businessmen, cow protection farmers, and Shudras are the workers, artisans, and everything. And all serve different functions. Regardless of the situation, if one knows that both the demigods and he himself are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, his knowledge is perfect. But if he does not understand this, he achieves different planets where the demigods reside. This is not the same destination the devotee reaches. The results achieved by the demigods' benedictions are perishable because within this material world, the planets, the demigods, and their worshippers are all perishable. Therefore, it is clearly stated in this verse that all results achieved by worshipping demigods are perishable, and therefore such worship is performed by the less intelligent living entity. Don't be less intelligent. Because the pure devotees engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service to the Supreme Lord achieves eternal blissful existence that is full of knowledge. His achievements and those of the common worshipper, the demigods, are different. The Supreme Lord is unlimited. His favor is unlimited. His mercy is unlimited. Therefore, the mercy of the Supreme Lord upon his pure devotees is unlimited. When it gets unlimited mercy, rather than just use bribery and you think you're getting mercy from the demigods, but actually all you're getting is the results of your bribery. It's a purchase business exchange. That's it. That's it. Not love. It's a business exchange. And some people worship the Lord in a business exchange too. You know, there's some temples, they go to the Lord and they say, my dear Lord, if I am successful in this business, I will give you 50%. 50% for me. And they make a deal, and they're successful, and they give the 50%. And some of them, they don't, and then they get in trouble with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So tomorrow we'll continue with text 24, an hour later, of course, that's our normal time, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight Time, 8 o'clock in the morning, Australia time, and 10 o'clock in the morning, New Zealand and Fiji time. So we'll take questions right now, and we'll stop sharing the screen, and let me, hold on a second, let me take you off of mute. And then after that, I hope Diksha Narayan is there to make some announcements. I would assume so. Usually he is at this point, unless yes, he is. Okay, so who has a question?
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Sita, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Good to see you.
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. Good to see you also. Maharaj, I have a question regarding, sometimes we have these perceived ideas in our mind, and we, the same class, which is listened by different people, the conclusion can be different. So I'm just trying to understand, like, how do we know we get out of these perceived ideas that we have on our own and understand the class fully so that we are not misguided?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question because actually Prabhupada gives the example, and many people give the example of different blind men touching an elephant. And they actually think differently. The elephant is different. Some people think the elephant's like a snake. People think like a tree trunk, according to what part of the elephant they touch. So therefore, we should inquire. It's a fact that people may hear, even my classes where I'm very specific about worshiping the demigods, and Prabhupada's very specific about worship of the demigods, and they'll just hear what they want to hear. We have actually a filter, a hearing filter, and we only hear what we want to hear. We don't hear other things, which is interesting, but also disastrous. So therefore, we have to inquire and have the association devotees so we can actually discuss these things. But Prabhupada is very specific. I think if one reads these things over and over again, it's easy to understand about the demigods. Although in Fiji, I could say these things over and over again, and people just think, oh, he's just talking like that because he has to talk like that. Fiji is quite interesting, that there's a lot of attachment, and parts of India too. There's a lot of attachment to the demigods, and I could say this until I'm blue in my face, but they still will be worshiping the demigods and think that. I mean, it's amazing. They'll think that the reason they're having trouble in devotional service, the reason they got sick, is because they neglected to worship a particular demigod, and and a lot of superstition too. So, yes, people do hear things different ways, so therefore one should inquire. That's the only solution. And you have to keep repeating. Another thing is, that's why we repeat, that's why in the beginning of the whole Bhagavad Gita class and seminar, we made the point that Prabhupada keeps repeating the same point over and over again because people have dull heads and they can't understand it unless you just hit them over the head 10,000 times with the same point. And I've seen that dealing with people, just what did I say? And they say this, and I said, no, I didn't say that. So, anyway, that's the solution. Dictionary doesn't have any announcements. Isn't there an announcement about the Samadhi ceremony that's going to be online? And also,
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Dictionary. So, yeah, don't you have an announcement about that?
Yes, Maharaj, I can announce. Actually, the Samadhi ceremony is starting Indian time. It is 4:30 a.m. on Monday. So that means for us, it is starting at 7 p.m. this evening. And it's going to be telecast on mayapur.tv. And in that, there's a link, BCS Samadhi. And from 7 to 10 p.m. So it's going to be 3 hours where there's going to be they're going to start with some sort of prayers, and then there's going to be some offerings, and then artik, and then taking the vapu into the samadhi pit. So all the entire ceremony, like most of it, they said they can actually they'll be doing a video broadcast. So it's on Mayapur TV starting at 7 p.m. our time this evening, like in an hour actually.
Yeah, so for those who are different time zones, that's in 1 hour from now. It's 1 hour from now on Mayapur TV, and I'm sure it will be recorded too. I'm sure the devotees will do that. And it's actually this week has actually been quite a traumatic week for all of us. And I don't even know how I got through the week. But it's been quite a traumatic experience, and I don't have too much to say about it, except, I'm traumatized by the whole thing. But we should definitely take shelter of Bhakti True Maharaj's example that he's given us of dedication to his divine grace, Srila Prabhupada. If one does that, and I know I've said it before, one will be connected to Bhakti True Maharaj, and one will be connected to Prabhupada and the whole Parampara. So he is teaching us, and he continues to teach us by his example. So you're invited to watch that. Another announcement. You want to make that announcement about donations to the temple here?
Sure, Maharaj. Yeah. So yeah, we are, since the corona started, we are continuing our daily deity service, making arti every day. Our 5 artis, 5 offerings. There's a nice elaborate Rajbhog offering. So we are continuing our services as much as we can. And, if anyone would like to contribute anything towards the temple, because we still have our regular maintenance expenses, electricity bill, just maintenance, buying bhoga, buying flowers for the deities. So all those expenses are still continuing. And, because of COVID, we have very few people coming to the temple now. So naturally, our donations have reduced. So we are making a request, if you like to make any donations for the continued service of Sri Sri Radha Golokananda, you could go to either you can make a PayPal donation on New Goloka 108 newgoloka@gmail.com, or you could go to our website, newgoloka.com, and you can make a payment there online. Or you can also mail checks to the temple in the name of ISKCON of NC. So we have multiple options. You can always reach out to us, and we can tell you which is, if any option is more convenient for you, we can share details so that we have multiple options to receive donations. And all our donations are tax exempt, so we'll be issuing the tax exempt receipts also. And yeah, so that's the thing about donations. And I also wanted to mention that we are making plans about the Janmashtami this year, and soon we'll have announcements for you. By next Sunday, we'll have more information of how Janmashtami will be this year, and what changes are we making towards that. And so we'll have more information on that like within this week, and we'll announce it next Sunday after the class. Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Narayan Prabhu. And then there will be facility on Janmashtami for everyone to do the Abhishek, but that arrangement will be described. We're definitely not going to have any crowds or a lot of people here at any one time. Actually, it was asked, one of the devotees asked, what is the monthly expense for temple maintenance? I guess I should answer that for everybody. It's roughly $13,000 just for the maintenance, and that's.
Yes.
So I just sent that. So that's just for the maintenance, and obviously if things need repairs, like this week, this last week, I personally repaired the walk-in refrigerator. Because it saves money to have me as the maintenance man. So, anyway, I'm a servant. I'm ready to do anything that Lord Chaitanya wants. So, yeah, thank you for asking that question. So, yeah, so
Maharaj.
as far as, what's that? Oh, Ujjwala,
Yes.
you have a...
Yes, Dandavats Maharaj, regarding the same maintenance for the temple.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, Maharaj, if it is practical to do, say 13,000, and say if about 40 families come together, and then say 40 or whatever, 40 to 15 congregation, pledge some amount every month for at least until this corona situation resolves, if that is a possibility. That way, whoever is donating will have an idea of how much is needed, and they can prepare for months ahead. So I'm just saying if this is practical.
Yes, that's very good. Thank you very much, Ujjwala. And
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So just wanted to mention along those lines. So if anyone would like to make a monthly contribution, we can help you. Like if you reach out to us, then we can help you set it up with your bank, where you can transfer from our bank to our bank directly. And we can set up like monthly donations, so it becomes like an automatic thing. So if anyone is interested to do like a monthly recurring donation, please do contact us, and we can help you set it up from your bank. So just want to add that.
Thank you very much. Sorry to deal with all these topics, financial topics, but I mean, Krishna's been taking care of us so far. It's not that we're not going down the tubes or anything like that. So things are managed. We've reduced our expenses to a certain extent because we're growing our own flowers now, which is really nice. And hopefully in the future we can grow some vegetables too. But things are going on. We don't want anyone to worry about us. We're just giving everybody. The point is we're giving the opportunity to actually make devotional service and help with Radha Golokananda's maintenance. So it's not an extreme situation. Don't worry. We're all right. And you have this opportunity to be connected to the deities. I mean, help with the flowers. We have so many things going on with the deities every day. And also there's preaching going on. We have several weeks worth of greens we need for almost 3 months. Wow, from our garden. Gopal just told me we got several weeks worth of the greens. Oh, they're gone now because it's too hot. Anyway, don't worry. be happy. Krishna is maintaining us. It's not desperate or anything like that. But what the devotees are mentioning is to give them opportunity. And of course, on Janmashtami is an opportunity for the devotees to contribute for the temple too. It's an opportunity. And usually during our normal times, what happens on Janmashtami, we use that during other months of the year. So if you contribute on Janmashtami, that's fine. And anyway, we're happy. We're happy. Things are going on. The deities are worshipped to a really high standard. If you see pictures of the deities on the altar, they're beautiful flowers. Everything is going well. There's also construction going on, which has actually been financed separately by donors who are giving for a particular project. There's going to be new bathrooms in the temple, a lot of new bathrooms in one of the buildings, like 10 new bathrooms, which is enough for everybody. And also it's a new facility that is coming up, which other people are sponsoring as different projects. So,
Maharaj,
yeah.
are you open to one question, Maharaj? Do you have time?
Yeah.
Is it okay to go?
Yeah, sure.
In regards to the Bhagavad Gita, the question, Maharaj,
That's
for somebody who is caring and is humble, but not really a devotee, does that mean they have reached a Trinadapi state because they are not expecting honor and they are caring and serving everybody? So does this Trinadapi state
That's the same question you asked me in the email.
Yes, Maharaj. I've been thinking for past 2 days, like how can these people, the Trinadapi stage for us is like almost Nishta. And if these people can get to that stage without holy name Bhakti, I was trying to understand.
All right, let me explain. Let me explain, and I'll give you pretty much the same explanation I gave you before. So her question, for those who don't really understand what she's asking, is we see that people who are apparently humbler than the blade of grass, more tolerant than the tree, ready to offer all respects to others, and they're not devotees, or not even God conscious in any way. So how is that contrasting to we see with many, let's say, neophyte devotees who don't exhibit too much humility? That's a good question. So the answer is yes, people can exhibit those qualities, not fully, but temporarily, first of all, and not in relationship with all living entities if they're not devotees. There's two factors.
Okay.
One is permanent. As I mentioned before, now I don't have to answer your other email, save myself some time. So one is the permanent point, that it just, like a devotee, someone who is completely Krishna conscious, his Trinadapi Sunichena is never lost. Because as I described to you in a previous email, the modes of nature are always in flux. Now, you may be steady, not you, but just speaking rhetorically, a person may be steady in a particular combination of the modes of nature for even years, for even 50 years, for even a lifetime. But that doesn't continue. So that's the first point. It's not permanent, because it's the modes of nature ultimately, even if it means next lifetime, will change insofar as their manifestations or control of the consciousness. Because if someone's not Krishna conscious, they're under the modes of nature, by definition.
Yes.
By definition. So the mode of goodness, let's say if I wasn't Krishna conscious, I'm not saying I am. If I wasn't Krishna conscious, if I was under the mode of goodness, having good association all the time, then I would be Trinadapi, that would be me. It's a poem. Just like, let's take a Jamil, for example. A Jamil was a perfect Brahmin. He was definitely Trinadapi, Zanuchena, all those other nice things. And he had a nice guru. But what happened is that he contemplated something that was in the mode of ignorance. I think you know that story.
Yes.
He contemplated, a man embracing a prostitute. And by that contemplation, be associated with the lower emotion. And he lost his Trinadapi Sunichena pretty quickly. Now, it may not happen with most people so quickly. That may happen after next lifetime. That's the first point. And the
Yes.
second point is that someone who's not God conscious, they will not be Trinadapi Sunichena Toravi Basishana in regard to all living entities.
Mhm.
Because they won't see a pure devotee. What is that? Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmani Gabihastami Pandita Samadarshana. They won't see that each and every living entity is equal in a spiritual sense. You know, you have,
Yes.
Prabhupada called it first class God consciousness, where one sees the true equality of all, an ant, an amoeba, and is loving with everyone. You can be, so they may be Trinadapi Sunichena, etc., with other human beings.
Mhm.
But with all living entities, especially if they're not vegetarians, wow.
Mm.
How can someone say they're Trinadapi Sunichena, or to make the argument, if they're eating meat? Or even if they're eating vegetables and not offering it to God,
Mm.
because they're not being kind to the broccoli.
Mm. Yes, Maharaj.
Broccoli Prabhu. So anyway,
Mm.
my dear broccoli brother. So anyway, so little humor there. So the point is, those two qualities, and I probably can think of other reasons too, but those are the two that come to mind right now.
Yes.
So yes, I mean, certainly people who are not Krishna conscious can be extremely kind, extremely humble in a limited context.
Mm.
And then the other hand is, why do we see devotees? Okay, that's the second part of your question, who don't act like that. Well, Prabhupada said we're in a hospital, and devotees come to Krishna consciousness with all sorts of baggage. Like if you're a doctor, you work, you know about that. You go to the hospital, there's so many diseases people come with. And there's different manifestations, and it takes time for them to get better. That's one answer, if they're getting
Right.
better. The second answer is that this is a real problem for devotees, that many devotees become very proud. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions this. Many devotees become very proud because they're devotees. In other words,
Mm.
we have superior knowledge, we're better than you,
Mm.
and they become abusive just because of that.
Mm.
And I've seen that happen again and again and again.
Mm.
It's a real big problem when you're given like too much knowledge is a dangerous thing. When
Yeah.
you're given the greatest knowledge, the greatest thing, like if someone wins the lottery, here's an example. Not that you should play the lottery. You win the lottery. What happens with most people who win the lottery? It ruins their lives.
Mm.
So we have basically won the spiritual lottery by Prabhupada's mercy. And mercy of Prabhupada's devotees, we have basically won the lottery. And because we've won the lottery, we just don't know what to do with all that money. We think it's all ours. And so
Mm.
that really answers the question of why we see devotees. I mean, there's different reasons. They're past, and then also they're coming across something so valuable that they're proud of it. I'm
Mm.
a devotee and I can't be prouder, and if you don't like it, I'm going to chant a little louder. And they also imitate Prabhupada and advanced devotees. It's another big problem. The Prabhupada, he you hear him chastising people and acting very heavy, but he knew he was always doing it out of compassion. Whereas we see so many imitation Prabhupads. Like, they'll give a class and it sounds like they're imitating Prabhupada's emotive states. And it just comes across very artificial. Or when they're dealing with other devotees, they'll deal with people as Prabhupada dealt with them. But they don't have the realization.
Mm.
So anyway, I'm sure if I drill down, I could think of other million
Yes.
and one other
Yes.
reasons.
Yes.
But
Beautiful. Beautiful, Maharaj. Yes. Thank you.
thank you. So now I don't have to answer the question.
Thank you, Maharaj.
I saved myself 20 minutes today. Did something practical. So, anyone else have a question? Actually, we're over time, and there's the Samadhi ceremony, which is going to take place in 45 minutes. So, it's a very difficult time. We should just definitely pray for the mercy of Bhakti Chu Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada's sincere devotees, and somehow to become a servant of a servant of a servant of the Lord. It's very hard when someone who you really love spiritually leaves this world. And whether we were friends with Bhakti Chu Maharaj or disciples of Bhakti Chu Maharaj, it's very difficult to process that and deal with it. So, what can I say? It's a difficult time for all of us. And this is the nature of this world, and just to preach, and we should expect this to happen again and again. I mean, especially as we get older. And it's a heavy thing, but there's lessons to be learned. Okay, I think we have to end. I know other people want to ask questions, but it's going to be time for that program from Mayapur TV. So thank you very much for your attention. All glories to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.